Really, let's just take a moment here off the top. I mean, right, people always say, just a preliminary hearing. This was a whole lot more in the course of the last 2 days. Absolutely shocking details and incredible information coming out of that courtroom.
Absolutely. It was something, 2 days of testimony, 12 witnesses to help the prosecution establish this probable cause. And likely, Vinny, not even all the prosecution has against Chad Daybell, because it still is a preliminary hearing, but enough, it thought, to meet this burden. And the judge agreed, saying that there was enough for Chad's case to move forward in this. But we heard from law enforcement witnesses, we heard from forensic witnesses, we heard from Melanie Gibb and her boyfriend David Warwick, who are key to the prosecution helping prove the conspiracy in those overt acts, the alleged deceptive actions on Chad Daybell and Lori Daybell's part to conceal the whereabouts and the remains of JJ and Tylee. Jam-packed full of not just testimony, but also recordings from Lori Vallow on a body cam, phone calls recorded, jailhouse phone calls, like you mentioned. A lot learned over the last 2 days.
Well, let's get right to that, because today I was floored. I had no idea that they were going to put into evidence today a phone call between Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow Daybell. I mean, I don't think we've really heard them communicate. You know, they were talking with Melanie Gibb on that call from yesterday, but this is like in, you know, a moment that you wouldn't expect, because the search is taking place at Chad Daybell's home on his property. We now know what they're going to find, and I would think that Lori Vallow Daybell and Chad Daybell may have had an idea what they were going to find. Let's take a listen to that phone call.
Hi, Dad.
Hello.
Are you okay?
So there's such the property.
The house right now?
Yeah. So Mark Mills will be talking to you.
Okay. What, are they in the house?
No, they're out in the property.
Are they seizing stuff again?
They're searching. There's a search warrant, and so we're going to just get on this with the kids.
Okay.
Yeah. I tried to set up a call, logical.
Yeah.
So we'll see what transpires.
Okay.
Yeah,
What do you want me to do? Pray.
What?
What do you want me to
Yeah,
do?
yeah.
Okay. What can I do for you?
I'm doing pretty calm. I would call Marco, maybe. Just talk with him.
Have you talked to Marty?
I did call him, yes.
So he knows what they're doing?
Yeah. It's like a call from somebody else I need to talk to. I love you so much.
Okay, I love you. Should I try to call you later?
I don't know. I don't know. I can try, yeah. I'll answer if I can.
Okay.
I love you, and we'll talk soon.
Okay, baby. I love you.
Okay. Love you. Goodbye.
Ooh, I mean, I could hardly understand what Chad Daybell was saying in a lot of that, and it just sounded like he was really down and out. Chanley Painter, what are you taking away from that phone call? Because, you know, knowing what we know, and I'm listening to him, it sounds like they're like these pauses where there's no conversation. It's like what they're not saying is so loud to me, like, oh boy, they're searching. Uh-oh. What'd you take away from that call?
Exactly. What stood out to me, while a lot of it is inaudible and they don't say a lot of details, it's the tone, the somberness of Chad Daybell's voice. We heard his voice yesterday in the phone call with Melanie Gibb, much more upbeat, normal type of voice that we would think of with Chad Daybell. This was quite different in this recording, and I think that makes a statement in and of itself. There are a lot of long pauses, but they know they're being recorded. So I'm sure that was in the back of their mind to be careful what they said.
Yeah, just a little bit of advice. If you know you're being recorded and you know the bodies are in the backyard, you should be like, I don't know, they're here, they're searching. I don't know what they're looking for. They're digging up the backyard. I don't know why they're digging up my backyard. This is crazy. I mean, but that didn't happen. That did not happen. This is unreal. So, Chanley, give me the big picture. You know, this is a huge moment in a huge case. We've been following it here at Court TV for 7 months now. And now finally a lot of the information coming out through testimony. But we're in the middle of a shutdown and there's limited access, everything else. What was it like at the courthouse? Because I know what it would be like if we weren't in the midst of what we're in the middle of. So what was going on there at the courthouse as all this is taking place?
Well, the COVID-19 restrictions limited access to the courtroom. As you can see there, basically we have the grandparents of JJ, which is Larry and Kay Woodcock, sitting there with the victim's advocate of the prosecutor's office escorting them in and out, and then other court personnel other than the media with permission, you know, Court TV pool cameras. That was it allowed inside the courtroom, but outside this Fremont County courtroom was a buzz. There was media from all over the nation here, Vinny, out set up, staked out to try to catch people entering and exiting the courthouse throughout the day. We would even though the deputies here tried to block the walkway from the jail to the courthouse where Chad Daybell would make his entrance and exit a couple of times a day, they tried to block our view. There was still sometimes we could catch a glimpse of Chad Daybell. He would be escorted by sheriff's deputies wearing a bulletproof vest, which is the norm for high-profile cases here, and carrying his notepad, which I did see him use today inside the courtroom. So definitely a presence here for this case. It's very high profile and a lot of precautions, not only for COVID-19, but because this is probably one of the biggest cases they've had here in Fremont County.
All right, another, and I don't know if it was bizarre or I just wasn't expecting it, and that was the cross-examination of Melanie Gibb. Melanie Gibb, to me, the star witness for prosecutors because she can take us places that investigators can't go, which is inside the world of, and inside the house, literally, of Lori Vallow Daybell. But there was a part of the cross-examination I want you to take a listen to here, Chanley, where she's talking about the relationship between Melanie Gibb, not in Lori Vallow, not in Chad Daybell, but the relationship between Melanie Gibb and her best friend at the time's daughter, who is the victim, and one of the victims in this case, Tylee Ryan. Let's take a listen at how that went.
And obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but you had a poor relationship with Tylee, and isn't that correct?
I would say I had pretty much a no relationship with Tylee.
Right. She didn't care. Well, all right, I want to strike this because I don't want to misrepresent. Both of you weren't particularly fond of each other. Is that correct?
Objection asked and answered.
That hasn't been asked and answered, Judge.
Overruled. I'll allow the question.
You and Tylee were not particularly fond of each other. Is that correct?
I don't know how she felt about me, but I did not have a relationship with her. I would not say that.
Okay. Okay. But it's no surprise that she didn't necessarily want to be around you, did she?
Objection calls for speculation.
Sustained.
You could really care less whether you were around her as well. Isn't that true, ma'am?
Not necessarily.
Okay, well, if it's not necessarily, does that mean yes, no, or you just don't want to answer?
Objection, argumentative.
Sustained.
How would you describe your relationship with Tylee, other than none at all? Did you care to be around her or not?
Very
Objection
little.
asked and answered.
Okay. I'm fine,
Sustained.
Judge. I'm going to move on.
Things getting a little dicey in there. Chanley, two things. One, the tone of the cross-examination seems to be very accusatory. And then you put on top of that, pointing out that there's a lack of a relationship or a bad relationship between Melanie and Tylee. I mean, do we think that the defense might actually go there and perhaps point a finger at Melanie Gibb, the state's star witness, Lori's former best friend?
Who knows what the defense, it could be just building blocks for something they want to bring up in the future, but it was intriguing as to why the defense attorney, John Pryor, would harp on this relationship between Tylee Ryan and Melanie Gibb. When Melanie Gibb visited Lori Vallow Daybell last September for the weekend with her boyfriend, David Warwick, they saw JJ Vallow, but they did not see Tylee Ryan, and they testified to that. Lori telling them that Tylee was a student at BYU, Idaho at the time, and no cause for concern there. They believed that. Maybe that was sort of a reason why Melanie Gibb wouldn't think twice about it. She maybe wasn't fond of Tylee. And as we've covered this case over the last several months, Vinny, we've heard from the Woodcocks, who also told me in an interview back in May that Lori and Tylee really didn't get along either. So it's interesting, not sure what trajectory the defense is going towards with this type of testimony, but overall the tone of that cross-examination this morning between John Pryor and Melanie Gibb on the witness stand, it was tense at times, argumentative. She was defensive, he was defensive, so much so the judge had to step in a couple of times to calm things down.
Yeah, it was fascinating to watch. Again, in a preliminary hearing, could you imagine what's going to happen in front of a jury? Because you ramp it up another 10 notches. Okay, folks, Chanley's going to stay with us. She's not going anywhere. She's out there in Idaho for us.